we're going to be starting a new project. Starting from this pattern page, I'm going to click on Cast on Project, and that will begin the new project page. Right here, I can rename the project if I want to. As it says, you can change it later. And so here is the basic beginning of your project page. It doesn't really have any information in it other than a link to the pattern. And I'm going to click on the Edit button. If I am beginning this shawl today, then I'm going to go on ahead and click in there, and the day that I finish it, I'll put in once I've got that date. If I am making this as a gift for somebody, I can log that there and keep track of who I've given what to. That's great if you're making like a whole bunch of hats for somebody, for your family. I'm not linking to anybody else's on Ravelry, and I don't have a deadline, so I'm not going to put that in there today, but that's where you would put it if you wanted to. And I know that Ravelry sometimes has challenges where you have to finish projects in a certain amount of time, and I believe they use that function for that as well. If I were making a garment or anything else that had several sizes in the pattern, I would definitely want to put in the size made. That's more useful even for other people coming along behind you than it is for yourself. If I'm looking at a toddler sweater and I see that it comes in size like 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, then I want to go and look at the pattern pages from people who have made that toddler sweater, and I want to know what their yardage was. But if they didn't put in what size they made, that's not going to help me out. So I really like having that size made feature. Now there's the pattern name. And you can change that if you need to. If you've selected the wrong pattern that you're working from, you can edit that. But there's also the additional patterns, and that's if you're using an element from another pattern, like if you're using the cabling from a different sweater, or if you're using a button band detail or integrating a Fair Isle pattern from a different project, you can add that there. And that's another thing that you do for the purpose of searchability. A lot of times people want to see what was done with that pattern, and they'll be able to see it when you've got that tagged in your project. Pattern category is another thing that we do for the purpose of being searchable. If somebody else has got this yarn and wants to see what shawls people have made with it, then because I have got mine in here, then they'll see, hey, this shawl looked really great in that yarn. Now the tags, I use tags when I'm making chemo hats so that that's searchable, and I use tags for a group that I am in. And this is, oh my God, what year is it? This is the tag that we're currently using. Now needles, you can add as many different sizes as you're using if you're doing something with ribbing, if you are increasing your needle size at a later point. If you have a crochet project, you add your hook there. If you're using multiple sizes, you can log it there. Now the gauge, once you have got your swatch worked up and blocked, then you can enter that information, and you can enter that by 1, 2, or 4 inches. And then you can also put in what the pattern was. So if it's like a blackberry stitch or something other than just stockinette, you can also put that information in there. You can also hit fill in gauge from pattern. If you have managed to hit gauge in your swatch, then you could just hit that button and it fills it in for you. But you know, don't lie like I just did, because that's going to screw you up later. Now add yarn. If I had already put this yarn into my stash, which I have not, I would have been able to just click here on use and that would show up. Boom. But that's a lie. That's not what I'm using. I'm deleting that. So I am adding, I'm going to search for this yarn right here. And if it doesn't show up in here, then you can search a different way. You can use the manufacturer's name, but it is this yarn right here. Now my colorway is called Greyhound. I'm going to put in what the closest color is, and this is really important for you and for anybody else, because if they have got just a number instead of a name, and I hate it when people do that. I hate it when companies just have a number for the color, and then you're trying to find out what does this color actually look like before you order it. So you're looking through people's project pages to say, hey, did they use it with this dark blue? I want to see it next to. It's really hard to find if there's just a number. You're jumping back and forth, and so it's useful to have this here so you don't have to look back and forth between like a seller's website and a little snapshot on their website to try to figure out what colors you're looking at. My dye lot is 51. Always record your dye lot. And I've got 3 skeins. And then later, I'm going to hit enter totals instead once I've weighed my finished object. And I will enter how many grams I had when I was done, and it will update to show exactly what my yardage was. I'm putting in where I purchased it, and that means that this may end up showing up on the, yeah, here we go, Knitter's Niche. So this may end up showing up on that yarn page on Ravelry as a source where people can buy that. I bought it on that date. I'm not putting in how much I paid. You can add more colorways without having to go through that whole rigmarole. If you do copy and add another colorway, then all you have to do is enter what the other colorway is. Or you can add a completely different yarn. Now, project notes, that's where the real important stuff comes in. So anytime you make a modification to the pattern, if you're struggling to understand the pattern, if you think you've found an error, if you are introducing some innovative new shaping or something that's not actually in the pattern, this is where you log all that. This is for your sake and also for the sake of anybody else who's coming along afterward to try to figure out how people worked this pattern. If you don't want other people to see that, you can do that in the private notes. So I'm going to save changes. And now this is just kind of the skeleton for the project page that I'll be building on. I'll be fleshing it out as I go. I'm going to take photos later on. I'll add those photos. I'm going to update what I think about the pattern. Some patterns have got really bad reviews. Those are usually the ones that were not tested and are not put out by professional designers. So it's always good to look at the clarity rating and the overall rating before you purchase a pattern. I can also rate the yarn once I've been working on it for a while. Hey, that one didn't leave. Yeah, I've still got to delete that one. Let's delete that. Did you not delete? Yeah, I want to remove that yarn. There we go. And so now I've got this set up and I can click on some different things, like I can go to the pattern here. I can see what other people have done with the pattern, what their notes are. So this person right here, they didn't put in their yardage, they did put in the needle size they used, and they gave us some helpful information on some modifications that they made. Let's see. So here we've got someone who did put in their yardage. If you click on yarn ideas, you can see what yarns other people used, and it sorts by the most projects that used that yarn. So once you get past the first few, you'll usually just see used one time as people start to use things that are something special that they found, that not necessarily what was recommended or what most people would go to right away, which can be really helpful sometimes. Because I have created this project, I can go in later and see all my notes. I can see what my gauge was with that needle size in that stitch pattern, which is really great for stockinette and garter stitch because you'll use that over and over and over again. And you'll also get a sense for other yarns that work out basically to the same weight. What size tool do you want to use? I can click on this tag right here and see what other projects I have done. Oh, you know what? I misspelled my tag. I can fix it. I can fix my tag. And then I can click on it and go in and see what else have I done. So I've done these things. But then I can delete my name and see what other people have done with that same tag. So all the other folks in this group working on their 12 shawls for 2021, I can see what the other projects are. And I can wonder why I'm working so slowly. So now that I've got that project page set up, that's going to be something that I revisit periodically anytime I want to make a note, anytime I want to make a change, anytime I think I've discovered an error in the pattern. That's really helpful if you go in there and you say, like, I think row 37 stitch count is off, or there's definitely an error in round 3. And other people can actually go in and mark that your pattern notes were useful. So once you've got all that information in there, you can do searches within your own projects. You can do searches within other people's projects because they've all left that breadcrumb trail for you to follow. So it's great not just for yourself, but for everybody else, because we're sort of crowdsourcing our knitting and our crochet right here, and everybody's building their skills bouncing off of each other, which is the really awesome thing about Ravelry, as well as just being an integrated one-stop shop for all of your patterns and projects and stash and tool information.